Put your apron on.
Wash your hands.
Let's get out some pots and pans.
Cup, plates, and a wooden spoon.
Tap, 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 a little cooking tune.
And we're live.
Hello and welcome back to another We Go From Nick Cage as a Cook to This Guy episode of the First Time Watchers podcast.
Because I really cook in the kitchen. Because we like to watch.
My name is Tim Costa.
I'm Hermano De Silva.
And I'm Walter Vinci.
And if you like,
I also cook.
if you like to send feedback, you can always email us at firsttimewatchers@gmail.com. In this episode, we continue our second time Watchers series to discuss a film from my childhood. I don't know, I was 17 when this came out. Under Siege 2, Dark Territory. But before we get into that, it is time for Yay or Nay. This is the part of the show where we discuss what we've seen recently on our own. I will go first. Two things for me. I caught up on a film that was released a little bit earlier this year on Netflix, directed by Joe Pena, or Pena, I think is how you say it, who directed a movie from a year or two ago called Arctic, starring Mads Mikkelsen. I don't know if you guys remember hearing about this movie.
I did not.
Which I had seen, and I highly recommend because I think you guys would like it. And also Mads Mikkelsen. He's awesome. But anyways, this movie does not star Mads Mikkelsen. It stars Anna Kendrick, Daniel Day Kim, Shamir Anderson, and Toni Collette. And it is about a 3-person crew on a mission to Mars that faces an impossible choice when an unplanned passenger jeopardizes the lives of everyone on board. This movie's fine. It's okay. It's a decent sci-fi drama. It requires some logistical leaps, like how did this guy get stuck there? They never really explain that very well. And but it just kind of focuses on the humanity of such a situation. They have to figure out, essentially, since their oxygen supply system is damaged, they have to find out how are we going to get oxygen for all 4 people, especially for one unplanned person, and how are they going to survive. All the performances, interesting. It is a well-cast film, but there's nothing about the performances that, stand out. There's nothing really great about them. There's nothing that hinders the movie. It's just nothing about this movie really stands out for better or worse. It's just kind of is. It's kind of a run-of-the-mill high-concept thriller that does have some interesting elements, but it sort of overstays its welcome. It's right around 2 hours long, and I think if you trim this down, cut it by 20 minutes or so, you'd have a really tight, interesting thriller. But it's fine. You don't have to catch up with it by the end of the year or anything like that. And then from 1941, starring Humphrey Bogart and Ida Lupino and Alan Curtis, High Sierra. After being you've seen this movie?
Not in a while, but I have seen it. Yes.
Oh, interesting. After being released from prison, notorious thief Roy Earl is hired by his old boss to help a group of inexperienced criminals plan and carry out the robbery of a California resort. I had been recommended this movie a couple of months ago. I don't even remember why it was recommended to me, like what prompted the recommendation. I think it was another movie I had watched, and somebody had said, "Oh, if you like this or this, part of this movie or whatever, you should watch this." And I was like, "Okay, sounds good." And I did, and I liked it. It's pretty good. You've seen this type of noir before, and you probably know where it's headed, but it's elevated by the performances and quirky characters. As always with this time period, I really appreciate the heightened dialogue, especially within a crime scene noir, if you will. It helps to have some pretty good California vistas in the background, and I think Humphrey Bogart goes full Scarface by the end, which is pretty cool. Interesting note. So Ida Lupino is one of the love interests, but there is another love interest of Humphrey Bogart that he meets on the way to his destination. And they state in the movie that she's maybe around 20 years old. Now, at this time, Humphrey Bogart, at the time of the release, is 42. And I go and look up this actress. And at the time of this movie was released, this actress is 16. And
different time then, Tim.
I know, but holy shit. Look, even at age 20, I'm looking at them. I'm like, what? Why is this happening? What is going on here? I was like, okay. Yikes. So I think she's maybe 15 when they're filming this movie. It's weird. Super weird. Hermano, what do you got?
All right, watched a couple things. First up, I watched a documentary on HBO Max a couple weeks ago called Woodstock '99: Peace, Love, and Rage. Woodstock '99, a 3-day music festival promoted to echo unity and counterculture idealism of the original 1969 concert, but instead devolved into riots, looting, and sexual assaults. I was there.
This.
Oh, you were there?
Yeah, I was there all 3 days.
Wow.
I went because I felt like I had missed out on '94, and I'd heard it was kind of a mess, but like a once in a lifetime sort of feeling or experience. So when Woodstock '99 came around, I didn't really love the lineup. There was, I don't know how many acts there were there, like 60, 70, 80 or whatever over the 3 days. I probably was interested in maybe 10. I remember wanting to see Metallica. I had never seen them before. Red Hot Chili Peppers played. I really wanted to see The Roots, which I had never seen live, and I didn't know how often I would get a chance to see that. Also, I got to see Elvis Costello, which I don't know that I would ever really, Elvis Costello isn't touring a lot around where we live, so I was glad to see Elvis Costello perform. But the rest of it was pretty trash. Like, I was definitely not there to see. Rage Against the Machine I also wanted to see. Definitely not there to see Limp Bizkit or Kid Rock or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, this documentary captures the experience pretty spot on, pretty perfectly. If you watch this, it's basically like you were there, like watching it. Like, it was really not well thought out. There was way too many people, not enough resources. People just, because of the heat, it was like 90 degrees every single day, no shade, because it took place on an abandoned Air Force base. So just concrete, and there was hangars where they were holding like midnight raves. And I actually saw, they actually premiered a few films there, and I saw that film. It was like its premiere. Remember that film Providence?
Yes.
With Alec Baldwin and everyone doing the really bad New England accent.
What a strange film to premiere.
Yeah, they premiered it in the hangar. And I remember I went to go see it just because I wanted to get out of the sun. And, it was just a little respite from this oppressive heat. But yeah, a lot of terrible things happened there, man. Like, this documentary really chronicles all the kind of bro attitude that came out during some of the performances, specifically Kid Rock and Limp Bizkit. Really got the crowd riled up. There seemed to be a lot of angst. They tried to kind of figure out what was going on at the time that maybe had people on edge. They trying to kind of link those two things together. Yeah, there was a lot of sexual assault. I remember hearing about that afterwards. I didn't see any, but I remember there were a lot of guys that were acting a fool. I remember seeing them kind of really not being cool towards the ladies. And towards the end of it, I actually left on the last day, the last night. The performance was Red Hot Chili Peppers, and it was at night, obviously. And people started, I guess, like some like well-meaning group passed out like candles to everyone. And it was supposed to be like a thing like, oh, light a candle for peace and love or something like that. And people basically said, nope, let's light up these big piles of trash, and let's light up the propane tanks, and let's light up the 18-wheelers that are holding the propane tanks.
Holy shit.
And I'm like, I'm about to get blown up. So I'm leaving, bye-bye. We left like halfway through Red Hot Chili Peppers, went to our car. And thank God we did, because from what the documentary shows, it got only worse. So it was bad. It was a bad experience. I mean, it was an experience. I liked it overall. Like, I'm not going to ever do it again, I don't think. But yeah, it was a one and done for me. And the documentary really captures it well. So it's a yay overall for a terrible event.
You're too old for that shit anyways, Armando.
Oh, I can never do it now. I'd probably be dead after like 3 hours on the first day.
It also, like, I also can't like help but draw the conclusions to this, like, and the Fire Fest.
Yeah, I mean, not quite as bad, because I mean there were
like, Woodstock actually happened, where Fire Fest didn't.
Yeah, true. But in the case of like neither one being really fully prepared for what was to come, I'd say Woodstock maybe had a little bit more together. But yeah, it was nuts. I like that I have that memory, but I hate that a lot of terrible things happen there. And then lastly, I watched a film from last year, which I haven't heard a lot about. I don't even know if you guys have heard of it, but I decided to check it out. It's called The Empty Man.
Oh, yeah, I have heard about this. I've kind of heard good things, actually.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo some good things. I don't know if I should read the synopsis. I will. It doesn't matter. It's not really a spoiler, but on the trail of a missing girl, an ex-cop comes across a secretive group attempting to summon a terrifying supernatural entity. You kind of find that all out in the beginning, so it's not really a spoiler, but this film is, I'm going to say it's really underrated. It's got a 6.1 on IMDb. I'm assuming that's because it's a little bit too long. It's 2 hours and 17 minutes long. Oof. I think it does take its sweet time kind of setting up the mythology in the beginning, which I will say that the first half an hour of this film is pretty great. Like, legit great. If it was just a short film, it would be like legit great. But then once that initial premise and setup is over and you get to kind of the plot, it started losing me a little bit. I definitely want to see it again. I think there is a sort of message there that I think I might have missed because I wasn't looking for it, but kind of comes together at the end. And I'm like, oh, all right, some of these events leading up to this sort of now make sense. But it does have moments, man. There are a lot of really awesome moments in this. Unfortunately, I think because there's really nobody of note in it. I guess James Badge Dale, being the lead, he's like kind of the most prominent person in this. And then there's like kind of a cameo in the middle that I won't spoil of someone you'll recognize. But yeah, it's solid, man. I would recommend you check it out, Tim. Wally, I don't know if you would like this because I think it would kind of put it into, I think you would file it under artsy fartsy bullshit.
Okay.
There's definitely hints of that, but I think if I saw it again, I think I would get it a bit more. I think I would get what they were going for a bit more. But again, I think it's just a little too long. I think it definitely should not be over 2 hours, but definitely underrated, and definitely I think it's something I would recommend to people to check out as kind of like a kind of a surprise that they may have not heard of before. So overall, I say yay on The Empty Man.
Psychic spies from China try to steal your mind's elation, and little girls from Sweden dream of silver screen quotation. And if you want these kind of dreams, it's Californication. It's the edge of the world in all of Western civilization. The sun may rise in the east, at least it's settled in a final location.
And now we're here.
So this went on
for over a year.
And it's still going on.
I didn't factor in the variable for human stupidity.
It's clearly a joke in there, but I'm just too woozy to make it.
But you know what you should always make it a point to listen to?
The In Session Film Podcast.
That's right, Tim. The In Session Film Podcast is JD and Brendan.
And each week, the In Session Film Podcast chooses a movie to review.
Wait.
Then creates a top 3 list based on what they just saw.
We're missing something here.
This week, the In Session Film Podcast is reviewing Nia DaCosta's hit, Candyman.
Candyman?
Candyman!
Stop.
What, from saying Candyman?
Don't do it.
What's the worst thing that could happen from saying Candyman?
Anyways, you can find the show on Apple Podcasts by searching for, you guessed it, the In Session Film Podcast.
Or on the web at insessionfilm.com.
So if you're looking for more great movie reviews and discussion,
then check out the In Session Film Podcast on Apple Podcasts.
Or on the web at insessionfilm.com.
See, I told you guys nothing would...
Helen, I came for you.
Oh, God!
Ah!
Dream of Californication. Dream of Californication. Mary McGill, be my ferry to the world, be my very own constellation. A teenage bride with a baby inside, getting high on inside.
This is a second time watchers episode, so that means it's time to play a game we like to call
Movie Battle Royale.
This is where we use flickchart.com to create our collective top 10 list of all time. We'll be pitted with 5 pairings of movies and decide which one is better with each battle. Are we ready?
Let them fight!
First up, Austin Powers, the International Man of Mystery, the first one, versus Hot Fuzz. Come on, this is easy. Hot Fuzz, Hot Fuzz, Hot Fuzz, Hot Fuzz.
Yeah, I'd say Hot Fuzz because it's got more staying power than Austin. Austin Powers is clearly a sign of its time, and the jokes do get repetitive pretty quickly in that, but it's still enjoyable.
Hermano, enjoyer of comedies, Hot Fuzz.
Oh, I was definitely leaning towards Hot Fuzz, but I was just thinking about how these two movies are like almost polar opposites. Like one's kind of like the indie kind of comedy, and the other one's like more of the cultural touchstone, zeitgeist type.
Sure.
That sequels and all that stuff. Like, yeah, but I definitely appreciate Hot Fuzz a lot more than Austin Powers. Though I enjoy Austin Powers for what it was.
Yeah, same. Hot Fuzz it is. Next up, Cars, Pixar's Cars, the first one, versus True Lies. James Cameron. Come on.
True Lies, baby.
True Lies.
Yeah, it's still no Blu-ray for True Lies.
That's a shame.
What is up with James Cameron? Seriously.
He's working on Avatar.
Damn.
Does he not like Blu-ray? Is he waiting for like 8K or something?
Yeah, I know, weird. Almost like all of his other movies, other than The Abyss, are on Blu-ray, but that one and The Abyss, 2 movies that deserve it, if anything.
I think that's what I'll do. So when I see your Abyss Blu-ray tweet, I'll just retweet it with "and True Lies."
Right. Next up, Batman 1989, Tim Burton versus Jerry Maguire.
Oh, come on.
What?
Come on.
You like both?
I love both of these movies. It's still gonna be Batman '89 because without that, like, it's the evolution of what we've got now. I know a lot of people aren't keen on the superhero stuff these days, and it's probably wearing thin on a lot of people. But you know what? As a comic book fan, this was the fucking grail movie for comic book fans back then. It's still really well done, really well executed to this day.
Hermano, famously not a fan of Batman '89.
I'm a fan. I just, whenever people like just still prop it up as like, one of the best Batmans, I'm like,
It is
it's
though.
not its time.
It absolutely is. I think it's very much on point with the comic book.
Sure, but like, I mean, I feel like it's really dated and it's of its time. Like, I still appreciate it for what it was, like kind of as like just a movie I watched when I was a kid or whatever. But I now that like the Nolan ones have come out, and like I don't know, I don't look at it with the same reverence, I guess, as when the Nolan ones didn't exist.
So you going Jerry Maguire?
Did I ever tell you guys the story how I got tricked into seeing Jerry Maguire?
No, tell.
Oh, you guys, well, Wally will remember. You remember the Bijou?
Yes.
It's real quick. Like, this is before like cell phones, I think. I don't think I had even my first cell phone yet. And my friends were like, "Hey, you want to go see a movie at the Bijou?" And I was like, "What's playing?" And they just lied and they said something else because they wanted to see Jerry Maguire, but they knew I didn't. So they played a prank on me basically and said, "Oh, this is playing or whatever." I can't remember what they said was playing. And literally not until I saw Tom Cruise's name pop up did I realize. And even then I was like, "Wait, Tom Cruise is in this?" And like I still was thinking the other movie, and I'm like, "No!" It had just hit me. I was like, "Fuck, you guys bastards! You tricked me to go see Jerry Maguire." And I ended up kind of liking it. So I wasn't too upset, but
It is a good movie.
yeah, it's not bad. Man, this is kind of a tough one for me. I think I'll go with Batman.
Yay, 3 for 3. Batman it is.
The neat point too is that how there's the Nolan movies. The Batman series didn't make that dark and gritty turn until about 1989. Actually, this is right when the turn happens for the comic, because the year prior they had the 900 call in for does Robin live or die at the hands of the Joker?
Interesting.
And when that after that moment happened, like the comics pivoted to, and then you have like the Dark Knight Returns coming out, and that's where like, it pivoted to this like grim and gritty state for the 90s.
Next up, The 40-Year-Old Virgin versus Chasing Amy.
I still think the 40-Year-Old Virgin is probably better than Chasing Amy.
Wow.
Yeah,
You're shocking me.
I mean, as much as I love Kevin Smith movies, I put Chasing Amy kind of at it's lower tier Kevin Smith.
Yeah, wow. What about you, Hermano? Where you going?
I've been wanting to revisit Chasing Amy because I remember really liking it at the time, especially because I didn't love Mallrats at the time, though I like it a lot more now. And once Chasing Amy came out, I thought it was kind of like a bounce back for Kevin Smith, and I'm like, wow, this is a really solid movie overall. And but I haven't seen it in so long. I really think I haven't seen it since whenever it came out. So just based on that, I think I'm gonna go with Chasing Amy.
I think you're gonna find that their conversations and arguments are very of their age, and it just doesn't hold up with an older perspective.
I'm sure that it's probably gonna feel like dated at this point, or the argument has changed or something. But I just feel like the 40-Year-Old Virgin. I don't know. I feel like the more I watch that film, I think the less I like it.
Next up, Knowing. I still haven't seen Nicolas Cage in Knowing.
Oh, it's something.
I believe it. Okay, Shrek. Here we go. Next up is Shrek versus A Christmas Story.
Shrek.
I'm going to Christmas Story.
Really?
I fucking hate A Christmas Story.
I
can't stand that fucking movie.
He doesn't like it. Hermano, come on. I'm going Christmas Story. Break the tie.
I was actually going to go Christmas Story too. I hate Shrek. Thank God my kids never really got into Shrek because I remember just kind of there were moments like I think in Shrek 2 there's one moment I remember genuinely laughing at with the gingerbread man, but Christmas Story is iconic, and I don't know. Didn't we do the sequel?
Yes, we did the sequel.
Yes, we reviewed it, right?
Yes, we did.
Not as good, but the original's a classic. That's why they play it every year.
Didn't make sense not to live for fun. Your brain gets smart, but your head gets dumb. So much to do, so much to see. So what's wrong with taking the back streets? You'll never know if you don't go. You'll never shine if you don't glow. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. Only shooting stars break the mold. It's a cool place.
All right, guys. So we need to record our top 3 reasons why you should listen to French Toast Sunday podcast.
Number 3 should definitely be our diverse opinions.
Number 2 should probably be our top 3 lists that we do every week.
No, it's gotta be Mark Wahlberg.
What about Gwyneth Paltrow's head?
It's gotta be Fighting the Sadness in the Swamp of Sadness.
Full Frontal.
Stories about being lost at sea.
Brendan Fraser being underground.
Helen Mirren's boobs.
Baltimore accents as heard in The Wire.
Crepes. Character studies.
Wait, guys. What about movies?
Tree rape.
Tree rape? Yeah, I like tree rape.
Tune in every Friday for a new episode of French Toast Sunday podcast, brought to you by us at FrenchToastSunday.com.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Okay, let's talk about Under Siege 2, Dark Territory.
The plan. We will take out the Pentagon. The price. $1 billion. Now, a team of terrorists are trapped. We have an intruder. By a cook. This I'm trained for. And a busboy. Porter. Not a busboy. Now, adventure has a new commander. Steven Seagal, Under Siege 2, Dark Territory. Rated R. Starts Friday, July 14th at a theater near you.
The plot. Casey Ryback hops on a Colorado to LA train to start a vacation with his niece. Early into the trip, terrorists board the train and use it as a mobile HQ to hijack a top-secret destructive U.S. satellite. The director, Jeff Murphy. The actors, Steven Seagal, Eric Bogosian, Everett McGill, Morris Chestnut, and Katherine Heigl. Before you guys get into it, let me tell you why I chose this movie as my second-time watcher's pick. I think we can trace a line to my current infatuation with disaster movies and over the top schlock. To maybe this movie. This movie came out. I'm not even sure I saw this in the theater. I definitely saw it on its many reruns on whether it be, I don't know, HBO or TNT. It was on a lot on TV at the time, and I really dug the shit out of it for some reason. It really entertained me, and I think looking back, there's probably one particular reason or person that drew me in, and the reason I was entertained, and we'll get into that later. But I think the the top silliness and I don't know, just the ridiculous nature of it all, along with shoddy editing and special effects, really piqued my interest. And like I said, I think you can find a through line to the money planes of today, if you will. So yeah, that was my history, with this movie, and I'm anxious to hear you guys. Hermano, what about you? Had you seen this movie before, and what'd you think about it this time?
I had seen it. I think I saw the first one and this one in the theater at the time. So this came out in '95. I was just graduated high school the year prior, just starting my life, and I'm like, what better way to start my life than see Under Siege 2 in the theater?
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, like, I was. This is probably a little bit past my action movie phase of my life. Like, I think that was when I was a bit younger, watching like the Rambos, the Chuck Norris films, the Bruce Lees, of course, the Michael Dudikoffs, American Ninja.
This is entering right into that phase of my life where I'm starting to go to the theater and seeking out movies like this.
Really?
Yeah.
I saw a lot of them on home video. I mean, because the earlier ones I obviously couldn't see in the theater. I'm not watching Rambo in the theater. But yeah, I was still, a little bit into it. Like, I remember sort of on some level enjoying some of the earlier Steven Seagal films, though. I'll tell you right now, like, he is probably definitely down the bottom of like the action movie guys of the 80s, 90s. He's towards the bottom for me because I always felt like he was a little goofy. He has like zero charisma.
Zero.
Yeah, he's very blank. Like, compared to like Jean-Claude Van Damme or like, Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, like, he's complete blank slate. I would even say Michael Dudikoff has more charisma than this guy.
It's so interesting you say that. Is there a better example of a movie being wildly entertaining despite the star of the movie?
Yeah, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but
Yeah.
I always felt that sort of about Steven Seagal, and I feel like he's playing it to be cool, but it really does not come off that way, at least for me. It really just feels like this is the least cool guy ever that's trying to be cool. I always felt like the fighting style was just paled in comparison, though I think there are some, it's very, I guess, titillating from like he's breaking bones and doing things like that, but it always just felt like it's a lot of hand waving, and then he'll grab someone and like maybe twist their wrist or something. I remember always feeling like, this guy doesn't even throw any kicks. Like, what's so great about him? And then he throws like a couple of kicks here, but nothing above the waist. I don't even believe he can lift his leg up past his waist.
Especially not nowadays.
Definitely not nowadays. And, especially as the time has gone on, like, we know more about Steven Seagal now, and kind of not a nice guy. And I guess maybe that a little bit of that is painting a picture for me, but that's my initial thoughts on Steven Seagal in this film, I guess.
What about you, Wally?
So yeah, I'm gonna mirror a lot of what Hermano was saying. Like, the one thing that irritates me more, I think, most about Steven Seagal movies, because all right, I did not see this in the theater. I saw the first one in the theater and loved the first one. I did not see this one in the theater, but I clearly recall renting it a couple of times from the Hollywood Video or Lancaster Video that was in the city that Hermano and I live in. And then, because I love action movies to this day. Like, if you show me good action stuff, I'm in. Like, comparing it to to kind of an uncharismatic actor, while he's not he's not uncharismatic. The character he plays kind of is John Wick. John Wick spends a lot of time just kind of looking around at shit and snarling. That's all he really does.
Okay.
But the action scenes in John Wick save the fuck out of that movie.
Well, I mean,
and just like this, the scenes in this movie save it from being utter garbage. Because Steven Seagal is someone's uncle. Like, literally, he is someone's uncle in this movie.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's interesting you make a John Wick comparison because you have to give a little bit more credit to Keanu Reeves and how he plays that snarl.
I do. But, like, I'm looking at it in terms of, like, kind of one-notey, like, characters. You know what I mean? Keanu Reeves also, I mean, is legit doing his own stunts, which is kind of awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm a massive John Wick fan ever since, Tim, you told me to go see this movie, and that was one of the best advices I ever took. But yeah, Steven Seagal, like I love watching the throws and the joint locks and the fights because to me those feel more accurate than say a Jean-Claude Van Damme fight, even though Jean-Claude Van Damme has the flashier moves. I would say this is closer, and because I think Hermano can kind of get in with this, that it's closer to something like UFC than it is an actual action movie, where they're in close and they're jockeying for leverage. You know what I mean? Then you get to the hand wavy stuff, which I never understood why that goes on in this movie.
It's so weird. It's so strange.
And because even like UFC guys, like when they throw like, you know, fake jabs or like try to, you know, fake a kick to get the guy to commit to something to get him with something else, they're not doing this excessive like whoosh, 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 whoosh. It reminds me of Barney Fife and his two lethal, you know, his hands are lethal weapons, you know.
That's funny.
And then you have you know, I always get Bogosian confused with Gould whenever I see him on screen.
Sure, I get it.
And I'm like, why is Ross Geller's dad like a bad guy in this? I'm like, oh no, that's Elliot Gould. That's right. This is the other guy. And really, I don't know what he's also got one of those faces too that looks really familiar. Like you've seen him in a bunch of things, and I can't place him in anything.
Right.
But overall, yeah, this movie is still fun to watch. It's still fun to watch bad guys getting thrown around, getting surprised, improvisational kills, you know, and you know it's also equally amusing that every bad guy so far is like, I want to fight him one-on-one. When clearly he is like laying waste to all your guys.
You know, I had seen, you know, I've seen this movie a lot more than the first one, and I've probably seen the first one once. And the only thing that really sticks out to me in that movie is Erica Eleniak popping out of that cake.
Yep.
Anyways, but this, so, and I think those are the only two Steven Seagal movies I've seen, other than another one where he shows up briefly. He's not even the star of it. But it's, and I'm thinking to myself as I'm watching this, I'm like, how the hell did he become such a star? Such like, how did he start, you know, being compared to these other action stars at the same time? I don't get it. I don't understand.
It's the fighting style. It's different. Ugh. He's not throwing mad kicks, you know, over the head. He's getting in close. He's, you know, using legitimate like joint block and, you know, and throws. So there's more of a, like I said, more of a bit of more like violent, like realistic violence in terms of how his action scenes play out,
but
and how they're able to shoot him, because you can. Yeah. With someone like Van Damme, you need a stuntman to either take the hit, you know what I mean, to fight him, or have like another experienced martial artist. In this, you just need a stuntman that just needs to know how to flip.
Well, okay, yeah. Well, that's the thing, though, is that most of these fight scenes here consist entirely of close-ups and quick edits and those weird hand waves. You know, there's nothing, you know, really interesting, and they get really old really quick whenever there are the one-on-one fight scenes. And he's dreadful as an actor and an action star. I don't get it. Zero charisma, zero, zilch.
But he's like the good guy man in black. And speaking of which, we talk about how Tom Cruise is the best running guy in the business.
Yeah.
No one runs better than Tom Cruise. No one walks on a train with purpose better than Steven Seagal.
I don't know about that. Look,
he does it a lot in this movie, by the way.
Yeah.
Constantly walking with purpose on the top of the train.
Yeah, I think he's trying. I think they're trying to do like a Western motif. Like those one-on-one duels, and it doesn't work. I don't know. Everything else about this, it's amazing how much else outside of Steven Seagal works better than Steven Seagal in this movie. It's amazing, and like I said, name me another movie where it's as entertaining despite the lead. I can't think of anything. And then like, how do you, like, seriously, I figured out why I like this movie like so much is, how do you make a film for Tim? You combine the exact premise of Die Hard and you mix in a little bit of Geostorm, and it's made for Tim. It's made for Tim. It's it. This movie is entirely lifted up by its supporting actors and the silly action outside of Steven Seagal. And I think as I was rewatching this, I was like, I know why I love this movie so much, and it's because of Eric Bogosian. He is amazingly entertaining and hammy. I love his performance as the villain. He makes the most out of every second and steals every scene. I love how he quotes Louis Pasteur. I love the extreme fisheye lens close-ups as he's pressing like enter on a keyboard to blow something up.
Damn, I'm good.
I love how his fingers get chopped off by the helicopter at the end. It's brilliant. His performance is brilliant. I love it. And then you have Morris Chestnut, who is like the Argyle from Die Hard in this, but he's given more to do, even though he acts really creepy and toxic around a much younger Katherine Heigl. Yeah, I know. I found myself wildly entertained. This is fantastic. Hermano, you've been silent for a little while. What do you think?
Well, I was just going to second that. Eric Bogosian definitely has the best role in the film. He's every once in a while, we talk about like the one actor that knows the kind of film they're in.
Yes.
And Eric Bogosian perfectly captures the type of film he's in with his performance.
Absolutely.
Because he's having fun. He's not overly serious. He's kind of playing, I think he's supposed to be playing a very smart but clearly psychotic person. And he captures it really well. Like, he's a really manic guy. I do like Big Ed from Twin Peaks in this as well, as like kind of the not the Hans, but the what's Hans' second in command there?
Carl.
Carl. He's kind of the Carl to Eric Bogosian's Hans.
You mean Zed?
Oh yeah, Zed.
So Everett McGill from Twin Peaks. Big Ed that's why I called him Big Ed.
Oh no, yeah,
I thought he was great in this. I forgot he was in it.
Yeah, Wally, you're thinking of the other guy, not the. He's like the number 3 essentially.
Oh, that's right. All right, yep. All right,
Yeah.
Run, dude.
But there are a lot of 80s bad guys in this film. A bunch of the henchmen were like either bad guys or other henchmen in other 80s films. Mike Hermantrout is in this.
Yes. Yep. Yes.
His scene, I was so bummed that he didn't get much to do, but there is a just head scratcher of a scene towards the end that he's involved in where I was just, are we doing spoilers?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Like doing them now?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, good. Like,
okay, so
this movie's been out for over 20
okay,
years.
so the final action scene revolves around the potential of 2 trains crashing head to head.
Yep.
Mike Hermantrout is in the front of the train where the engineer would normally be. Why is he still there?
Who knows?
Does he not know that this train is coming right at them? Why is he still standing there? And then the look on his face is almost one of like almost like he's excited. I'm like, what is happening right now? You're about to die.
Yeah, and then there's another problem that you bring up too that it was really hard for me to get an idea of what the fuck was going on. Is toward that part of the movie, right? They separate the train cars, but they never really show you that actually happened. So there's supposed to be stakes.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just to free all the hostages, let them
Yeah, but
go.
they separate the cars, and then like there's still this whole thing about the trains crashing into each other, but the hostages aren't on that train anymore.
Okay. Look, I don't know. You're looking for consistency. Look, this movie clearly loses any level of consistency and it loses any sort of continuity. By the end, and it's the worst. You can tell they try to cover it up. Like when Eric Bogosian is hanging off the edge of this cliff, the special effect and strange, I don't know, edit of that is just it's clearly inserted. Like, hey, wait a minute, we have to justify him hanging onto this ladder at the end from the helicopter.
It absolutely made no sense. Like Steven Seagal just jumped off a train that's going over the edge, and like, how the hell did Eric Bogosian even grab that ladder?
Right, exactly.
Like, it's impossible. Like he should have been like on the ground somewhere.
Yeah, no, you're right. It makes no sense. So the continuity and everything like that is all out of whack by the end of this movie. And I don't think they're as concerned about that, especially when you let the train cars go with the hostages on board.
No, I mean, there were a lot of conveniences made. That's one, because they want that scene with Eric Bogosian, the final scene with him, and it leads to him losing his fingers and falling into the explosion. But so many conveniences. Like one that made me laugh so loud was Steven Seagal like gets off the train at one point and he needs to catch up back with it, and he finds this truck and he just lifts the hood and the wires are just like right there.
Right.
Like, and he's like, when does that ever happen in the history of the world? Has like you just open up a hood and there are these two random wires just waiting.
The same way that whenever someone hops into a car in a movie, that they pull down the visor and the keys are there.
Well, that would make more sense in this movie. That would make more sense in this movie, or even where the wires are at the base of the steering column. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he just hops in.
Yeah, it made no sense that like it felt like, all right, we don't want to waste a lot of time here, so we're, we don't want to spend even like 30 seconds showing him hot wire a car. The wires just got to be there. Get going.
Because we've wasted way too much time with the stupid fucking mountain scene. They tumble off the train, and then he's like hanging on for dear life, and then all of a sudden, like a dude like rappels down.
Yeah.
Like, you could have destroyed that CD and saved us a bunch of headache. You know what I mean? You could have snapped it in half. It's a fucking CD. We didn't have the technology back then to fix that shit.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Why the hell were they trying to save it? Why didn't they just throw it off the cliff or something like that?
And then you got this thing where like you could easily just get rid of this guy. He's hanging off a cliff. Just shoot at him until he falls off. But no, you're gonna send a guy in full climbing gear all the way down, and then fighting off the edge of a mountain. And I'm like, are you serious? And then I'm not gonna even bother. I'm just gonna just shoot at the ropes until I can cut him with my gun.
One of my favorite bits is at the beginning when he's trying to get the passwords from the two people, and he's threatening to poke out their eyes and boil them and explode them. And it's another one of those fisheye lens scenes, and I love how he's just creeping over the shoulder of the girl with the hot poker. It's so good.
He knows where he's at. He knows he's like, I am a comic book villain.
Yes.
I'm gonna just do it all up.
So good. And then just throws him off the train.
Yep.
That's great. That's so awesome.
Throws him off, and while you're in midair, you get shot.
Why not?
When you absolutely have to kill a motherfucker.
Speaking of the front of the train, so the henchmen that are coming from the front of the train as Seagal is going towards there, did you notice that one of the guy that actually gets thrown in front of the train, he kind of looked like Alan Rickman, didn't he?
A little bit.
Yeah, like older Alan Rickman. He kind of looked like him, and I was like, hey, that's cool. Hans Gruber is in this. That's nice.
And speaking of henchmen, your like right hand, like your like girl henchman that's supposed to be like mad dangerous. Terrible shot.
Terrible shot. Oh yeah, absolutely. Shoots him in the shoulder or whatever. Not even barely grazes his arm.
Grazes him. He's like, I'm not even really shot. I'm like, what the hell was the point of all that?
Right. Yeah, that was kind of like a scene out of Snowpiercer,
It was Snowpiercer totally lifted it and did it way better. Because at least in Snowpiercer they're like on the mark.
Right. Yeah. It's a cool idea. I like the setup and how it's shot. Like showing the curve of the train and the cameras just behind her, and I like that. Her setting up the shot. But you're right. The execution of it is piss poor. Look, a lot of the moments in this movie, the execution is not great, but it's all about the premise, the commitment to form, by especially by Eric Bogosian, and I think even to a degree Morris Chestnut knows what he's in, and it is playing it similarly, but I think he's also almost in it too much. Like there's just a little bit too much of the comic relief there, just a hair. But
I felt bad for Morris Chestnut in this. I mean, he's coming off of like the critically acclaimed like Boys in the Hood.
Oh yeah.
And then he gets this.
Yeah.
This movie is kind of like almost like a career derailer, no pun intended.
Derailer, nice.
But we can all agree that I know you guys have heard the rumblings that there are like these really egomaniac action stars that just cannot look bad in their own films.
Sure.
Like Steven Seagal must have the most airtight, like I will not even sweat.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get punched in the face. No one is even going to get a single upper hand on me, or maybe just flip me once or something, or kick me over, like kick me to the side or something. But he literally, and this is kind of across all his films, he rarely looks like he's going to lose, or like there's even any sort of suspense that, there's even a moment like halfway through the film where he loses and then has to come back and win towards the end. There's never anything like that. He barely ever breaks a sweat, and he just easily takes out everyone in his film.
I completely agree, because by the end of this movie, like Steven Seagal is a producer on this movie, so there's zero chance of anyone foiling his character. So this final fight between him and that big bad guy, his name is Penn, is so damn one-sided. It's this whole movie is leading up to this fight, and I think this guy gets one kick to the head, but otherwise it's like he's never engaged in battle with anyone. He's so overpowered by Steven Seagal that the scene becomes boring, especially when Seagal has like no interesting martial arts moves. He has this one, leg tackle, and then all of his hand moves, and it's just so boring because he doesn't. There's no threat to him. There's no stakes essentially.
It's also very similar to the fight at the end of the first one with Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah. I mean, the first one with Tommy Lee Jones is like set up to be this really big bad guy, crazy, maniacal. They have a knife fight, and like Tommy Lee Jones is dispatched within like a minute.
Wow.
Like just easily, like he doesn't even touch the doll.
Chopped in the head, stabbed through the top of the head.
Yeah, and then head through a sonar station or something.
Yeah, and apparently, speaking of bad guys, I guess Gary Busey was supposed to be the bad guy for this.
Right. Yes.
But had some sort of conflict, but his contract said he had to get paid anyway.
Right. Well, no, the
So
thing was,
Seagal had to pay him.
his character got killed in the first movie, and the producers of this movie didn't realize it, even though they signed him on. So because of his contract, they had to pay him like he started the movie. Yeah.
Did you guys notice who one of the writers is for this film?
Who's that?
Matt Reeves.
Oh, okay. Is it the same Matt Reeves?
It is. I looked it up.
Wow, you got to
This
start
must have
somewhere.
been, an early one for him. It's just getting his name out there.
Yeah, got to start somewhere. Kurtwood Smith, guys, is one of the military guys.
In a strange twist, like I'm expecting Kurtwood Smith to be the bad guy.
Right.
Yeah. I'm like, oh no, he's a good guy.
Man, we need to talk about those military guys.
Yes.
That is maybe the least accurate I think like a military installation like that could ever be depicted.
Sure.
Like it was so absurd the way that these generals, these probably usually would be super stoic and serious, and like there's things at stake. Like the world is like could be thrust into chaos, and like they're like joking around. They're like thrusting their fists towards the end. I'm like, what is happening? Like this is absolutely absurd the way they're all like kind of acting in that war room or whatever.
We've got 7 targets left around. You got to pick one. Anyone.
Yeah. Let's just roll the dice.
Yeah. Hey, low-level tech guy, just pick one out of a hat.
Clearly sexually harassing your coworkers with the satellite boobs there.
Right?
Oh yeah. I can't believe that. That's the guy they're like, we're going to put the world's hopes on your lap, buddy.
And he failed.
Epic fail.
Epic fail.
He's still thinking about those satellite boobs.
Satellite boobs, that's right. All right. Anything else to mention? Are we good?
I want to talk about that last scene with where they overlay like the explosion from fire down below.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Into this scene when like the place in Gwangju gets blown up.
Yeah.
But it's like this really weird like dissolve to like the Pentagon.
Yeah.
And then I also want to talk about the other one that also cracked me up was the fucking clearly like composited helicopter in front of like fire.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
It's like flying away.
It's
And
great.
everyone's on the helicopter like, hey, we did it.
Yeah, and then I love how the military at the back of the Pentagon or wherever just start cheering like, "Yeah, we did it! We did it! You did nothing."
That's when I'm like, you also caused like how many millions of dollars of infrastructure damage and fucking environmental destruction,
right?
Never mind the people who were on the freaking crashed petrol train.
Yeah, exactly. Or the plane that was blown up, or everybody in China. But we're not going to worry about them.
That's in the past.
That's in the past. Casey Ryback saved everybody. Yeah, absolutely on that train. Yeah. All right. Let's get.
I hope DJ Valentine hears this, listens to this episode, and he writes a sketch about this because I would love to be part of that one.
Nice. Absolutely. Let's get into grades, Wally. As a kid and as an adult.
All right. So 1995 me would have been like, this is an A.
Yeah.
Just because that's like my, you're 18, prime action. Now it's like a solid B movie. It's not terrible. It's not, it's not, like the best action movie, but I didn't hate the time I spent with it. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, as when I first saw this is like an A movie for me, and now it's an A+ movie. It's amazing. I love it. When you have your I don't know, wet rag of a lead, outrunning the colliding trains in the nick of time, I'm like standing up and applauding. I love this movie. Hermano?
Well, as a young man, I probably would have rated it slightly higher. Probably, even though I wasn't a huge Steven Seagal fan, I did find some enjoyment in his films. Probably would have given it like a B+. As an adult with a more discerning eye, I'm gonna go like a C.
I hear you.
It's not a good movie, and I really, when Wally started comparing Tom Cruise's amazing running, I thought he was gonna compare that to Steven Seagal's awful running.
Yeah.
Because if you've ever seen him run, there's
running is terrible. He's the worst.
He runs so strange. It's so weird. It's like he didn't ever learn how to run, and he's only doing what he thinks running is. And I think it's probably why he never ever runs in his films anymore, and why you see him always just walk up to people or strut up to people, because his running is so weird. He runs like a little kid who has to like take a poo.
All right, so our next second time watchers is in a few weeks, and Hermano, it'll be your pick. Have you chosen anything?
I saw the list you sent me. I remember suggesting some of those. I kind of really want to do The Last Dragon. I haven't seen it in a while. I own it. I was a huge fan when I was a kid. It is kind of a weird film, but I'd be interested to watch it again. I know we all have seen it in the past, and Tim, you didn't see it till recently, right?
Yeah, within maybe the past 10 to 15 years.
Oh, really? All right, I thought it was even more recent than that. But yeah, I think I'm gonna pick The Last Dragon.
Interesting. What's your memory of it?
Well, I clearly saw that it was sort of like a knockoff to a lot of kung fu movies I was watching at the time, specifically Bruce Lee films and a lot of like Shaw Brothers stuff. I loved the kind of I don't know, the kind of the comedic aspect to it. I think it's not completely played seriously. I think they are having fun with it. I mean, the main character's name is Bruce Lee, for God's sake. But really, I've always thought of it. Like, I remember really think fondly back to it and the idea of the glow. And I've told you guys jokingly that I've convinced my kids that I have the glow and that I only bring it out when like the world is in trouble. So that's why they've never seen me use it. But yeah, I don't know. The idea of the glow and, the whole film as a whole, I think it's a lot of fun. And I hope, us all rewatching it and revisiting it and reviewing it, we'll get a lot of fun out of it.
Yeah, cool. All right, that does it for this episode of the First Time Watchers podcast. Donate via patreon.com/firsttimewatchers or buy stuff at zazzle.com/firsttimewatchers.
Talk to us on Twitter at 1STTimeWatchers on Twitter.
Or write us at our email, firsttimewatchers@gmail.com.
Please leave a review for us on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. Any feedback, we love it. If you have any suggestions of movies for us to watch, please send a tweet or an email. Speaking of suggestions, let's recommend a movie. I'll go first. Another movie that Steven Seagal showed up in, and I kind of referenced earlier, and that is Executive Decision from 1996, only a year after this movie. Directed by Stuart Baird and stars Kurt Russell and Halle Berry. Kurt Russell playing kind of against type here. But when terrorists seize control of an airliner, interesting. Intelligence analyst accompanies a commando unit for a mid-air boarding operation. This movie's famous for Steven Seagal exiting the film about a quarter of the way in because of circumstances, and I think people were surprised by that, considering he was one of the top billed people. But everything about this movie is pretty entertaining. I mean, you have John Leguizamo and Halle Berry, Kurt Russell, Oliver Platt, Joe Morton, B.D. Wong. It's a pretty good cast here. David Suchet plays the main villain. You may remember him from a number of his performances as Poirot. So good stuff. Executive Decision. Watch it. Walter.
All right, so I'm going to jump off of another Jeff Murphy joint and go a little further, I recall, forward. We're going to go to 1990, where he directed Young Guns 2. Starring Emilio Estevez, Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips. This is the sequel, obviously, to the first, Young Guns, which was a wild success and an absolutely fun movie. This movie, from what I remember of it, I always get my wires crossed between this one and the other one. I believe this is the one where they go to the spirit world, right before their big gun battle with the authorities at the end. Watch it for that scene alone. But yeah, I'll recommend Young Guns Part 2.
Hermano.
All right, I already name dropped the actor from the film that I'm going to recommend. Another childhood favorite, American Warrior, which I guess is the new title, originally called American Ninja. Which I'm kind of freaking out. Like, I was looking for it, and I typed in American Ninja, and American Warrior came up, and it looks like American Ninja, and apparently they changed the title, which is not as good as American Ninja. I love the synopsis, the way it's worded here. American soldier, obviously very skilled in martial arts, single-handedly takes on mercenaries in the Philippines. Look, guys, when you've rented every other action film at the movie rental place, you eventually get to American Ninja. And I gotta admit, I was entertained when I was a kid. Whitewashing didn't exist back then. It's not till recently that whitewashing came into the public consciousness. And, a white dude was able to be trained and star in a film that otherwise, was culturally appropriating an entire people's, fighting style and way of life and stuff like that. So, American Ninja. Travel back to 1985 and watch it.
All right, stay tuned for our next episode. We'll be discussing the 1974 Robert Mitchum film, The Yakuza.
That's the First Time Watchers podcast because we like to watch.
We can make cooking in the kitchen, cooking in the kitchen, cooking in the kitchen. Stir it, mix. Let's mix up a bowl of goo with a little bit of water and flour too. Stir it up until it's nice and thick, then put it in the oven for 1 minute. 'Cause cooking in the kitchen is so much fun. We're cooking dinner for everyone. We're cooking in the kitchen, baking a cake. So many yummy things we can make. Cooking in the kitchen. Cooking in the kitchen.
Have you taken your daily dose of horse dewormer?
Man, every time I read the news, I'm thinking, like, it's going to get better at some point, right? I'm just like, why? I actually, for almost the whole summer, for the most part, stayed away from the news. I haven't been really going on social media, like nothing. And it really made a difference.
Yeah, I believe it.
It's so much better, dude. Like, it's like, oh my god, all this fucking nonsense, and just cut it out, and you just instantly feel better.
And it's honestly, it's what most of the country does.
Yeah, but it's like everyone, you just can't help but hear it though. Someone will talk about it at work, or
True.
like, someone might send you a link or something. It's like, you just can't help but hearing that people are trying to take horse dewormer to combat the coronavirus. I'm like, how does this even get started? Like, seriously, who was the first person that suggested this?
Actually, it's interesting. I read an article, and I was also listening to a podcast that was kind of tangentially related to how this, becomes, semi-mainstream, and it's fucking weird, man. It's just, it's a lot, and it's strange, and it's sad. But when, when the internet becomes a tool for an echo chamber, it's just, it's one of the factors that leads to something like this.
I just don't understand the mind of people that they're told what this is, what its use is, what it's been studied to do, and scientists have been experts in the field have already told you, get vaccinated, wear your mask, social distance, sanitize your hands. But no, like, that's all a conspiracy. But when someone tells me to take horse dewormer, that's the real shit right there. It's like, what the heck is going on, man? Like, how does someone's mind work that just goes in that direction? I don't get
I read a really interesting Twitter thread by a reporter who kind of dove into how this happened, and with the dewormer, and how it's kind of tied into the group of doctors that were touted by Trump as the doctors to listen to, who were do you remember that the hydroclox or whatever thing that was touted by him and other people around him? Yeah. These doctors did the same thing. There was this group of, I don't know, doctors that they formed this body. I don't know what they called themselves. I don't remember. But then it just kind of spiraled from there. It kind of was just a strange slope that happened with them and these other groups. It's weird. If I found it, I just read it the other day, and if I found it, I'd send it to you. But it's just sad. It's sad and it's strange, and it's tied into other money making ventures and stuff like that. It's weird.
Yeah, man. But the people that are in positions of power, like these doctors that are like pushing this and stuff like that, like, I don't know, man. I really don't know how people do not just get in trouble for pushing this stuff. Like those doctors, like you were saying, this like contingency of doctors that all like were like, yeah, like, try this or whatever. Like, how can you even keep your license at that point when you're pushing a dangerous thing that could potentially harm someone? You know what I mean? Have you ever listened to that podcast, Dr. Death?
No.
Oh my God, dude. You would be so terrified of like the medical profession if you look at it. It's pretty out there. Like, it's on its third season, and each season deals with a doctor that did more harm than good. And it's terrifying, man, because some of these people that this doctor worked on, or any of these doctors worked on, like, they have issues for the rest of their lives. Like one in particular, like, it was his best friend, and he decided to operate on this guy, and the guy is now quadriplegic.
Jeez.
And in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. Like, I mean, I know that's a different thing, but pushing like these dangerous, unproven medicines on people when there's clear evidence that there's other stuff out there that's working for the most part, like, I don't get it, man. I feel like it's people looking for like not trusting like mainstream and looking for something alternative. Yeah, and I'm like, why? Why does your mind work like that? Like, why do you feel like everything's like some sort of grand scheme or conspiracy? Like, I don't know. It bugs me so much because it makes me feel like this is the world my kids are growing up in. Like,
Yep.
Man.
All right, go ahead.
And now we're here.
Says, fuck, I fucked it up. Start over again.